The client hit me so hard in the head that I lost consciousness, and by the time the hotel cleaners found me, I'd already lost part of the vision in my left eye.
My name is Nadia Voss. I'm 33 now, and I was in that life for about 6 years. Back then, when I was 20, 21, I really thought I was finally getting my shit together. I was living in Rotterdam, in this tiny studio apartment that smelled like old coffee and damp walls, but it was mine. I'd wake up early, make myself instant coffee in this chipped blue mug I got from the flea market, and head to the university library before my classes started. I was studying psychology. Yeah, I know how that sounds now, but at the time it felt important. Like if I could understand how people's minds worked, maybe I could make sure I never turned out like my parents. I had this little part-time job at a cafe near the Erasmus Bridge. You know the kind, serving tourists who wanted overpriced lattes and locals who just wanted to sit and smoke. I wasn't the best waitress, but I was fast and I smiled even when my feet hurt. The regulars liked me. There was this older guy, Mr. Jansen, who came in every morning for his black coffee and always left a €2 tip. He'd ask how my studies were going and call me the smart one. Those little things felt good. They made me feel seen. My parents had cut me off by then. Not dramatically, just one day the money stopped coming. My dad said it was time I learned responsibility, and my mom didn't argue. So I was juggling loans, the cafe shifts, and trying to keep up with my classes. Some nights I'd eat plain pasta with salt because that was all I had left in the cupboard. But I was proud of myself. I'd made it to university against the odds. I was going to be a therapist someday. Help people who grew up in messed up homes like mine. I didn't talk about my family much. Not to my classmates, not even to the few friends I had. They knew I was from a smaller town, that my dad was an engineer and my mom taught piano, but that's it. I never told them about the cold dinners where nobody spoke, or how my mom would criticize everything I did. My posture, my grades, the way I dressed, like I was some project that kept failing her standards. And I definitely never mentioned my sister. God, I still miss her. She was 4 years older. When we were kids, she used to let me sleep in her bed when the house felt too quiet and heavy. She'd braid my hair and whisper stories about leaving town one day, just the two of us. Then at 14, I found out what my father had been doing to her. And my mother knew. She sat me down and told me I had to keep quiet, that we don't destroy our family. My sister left at 17 and I never saw her again. No calls, no messages, just gone. After that, I threw myself into studying even harder. I told myself I was going to break the cycle. I'd get my degree, get a good job, and never need anyone. Never be invisible. That fear of ending up broke and worthless. It sat in my stomach like a stone, but I kept moving. I dated a couple guys casually, nothing serious. I liked feeling normal for a while, going to cheap student parties, dancing a little, pretending I was just like everybody else. I remember one evening in particular. It was late spring. I'd just finished a long shift at the cafe. My back was killing me, but I stopped by the river and watched the lights on the water. I had €20 in my pocket and a paper due the next day, but for a moment I felt hopeful, like the worst was behind me, like I was finally building something real. I had no idea how fast it could all disappear. Things started to feel heavier that last year. It wasn't one big thing at first, just a bunch of small stuff piling up. My shifts at the cafe got longer because another girl quit, and I needed the money too bad to say no. I'd come home after midnight, feet throbbing, smelling like grease and coffee, and still have to read chapters for class. My grades started slipping. Not badly at first, a B- instead of a B, but it scared me. I'd sit at my little table at 2 a.m. staring at my notes, eyes burning, thinking, just push through, Nadia. This is what you wanted. The debt was always there. The loans, the rent, the random bills that kept showing up. My phone got shut off once because I missed a payment. I remember standing in line at the service center with €20 in my pocket, praying it would be enough to get it turned back on. It wasn't. I had to borrow from a classmate I barely knew. That felt humiliating. Then my mom called one evening, out of nowhere. She didn't ask how I was doing or how school was going. She just reminded me that I was wasting my time with that psychology nonsense and that I should come home and get a real job. I hung up on her. My hands were shaking afterward. I kept thinking about my sister and how quiet the house always felt. It made the walls in my tiny apartment feel closer. I stopped sleeping well. I'd lie there replaying conversations, worrying about money, worrying about failing a class and losing my spot at the university. Some mornings I'd wake up already tired. I started drinking more coffee than water. My skin looked bad. I stopped bothering with makeup except for work. The worst part was the loneliness. I had acquaintances from class, but nobody I could really talk to. Everyone seemed to be managing better than me. They'd go out on weekends while I picked up extra shifts. One night I went to a party, just a regular student thing, hoping to feel normal for a few hours. I had a couple drinks. I laughed. For a little while it felt good to not think about everything, but even that started to weigh on me. I woke up the next day with this heavy feeling I couldn't shake, like I was falling behind, and no matter how hard I ran, the ground was crumbling under my feet. Money got tighter. I started skipping meals to make rent. My clothes were getting worn out. I patched a hole in my favorite jeans twice. I told myself it was temporary, that once I finished my degree, everything would be different. But deep down, I was scared, really scared. I could feel control slipping away, and I didn't know how to stop it. Then came the night that broke everything open. That night at the party, I don't even remember everything. One minute I was talking to some guy from my psych class. The next I was waking up in a strange room, hurting, knowing something really bad had happened. I went to the university the next day, shaking, trying to report it. They took notes, said they'd look into it. 2 weeks later, they basically told me there wasn't enough evidence and suggested I take some time off. Then they withdrew me from the program. Just like that. I was done. No more classes, no more future as a psychologist. The loans were still there, rent was due, and I had nowhere to go. I tried everything. I begged for my old hours at the cafe, but they only had 2 shifts a week. I applied for other jobs. Cleaning, retail, anything. Nothing came through. I slept on a friend's couch for a few nights until she started making excuses. Every day the panic got worse. I kept thinking about my mother's voice telling me I'd never amount to anything. I kept thinking about being invisible, broke, worthless. I told myself I'd figure it out. I sold my laptop. I ate one meal a day. I walked around the city for hours looking for help centers, but the wait lists were months long. The fear was constant. Not dramatic crying fear, just this cold, heavy weight that made it hard to breathe sometimes. Then my friend Lisa, the one who worked weekends at a club, sat me down one night. She said she knew someone, a guy who helped girls in tough spots. "He's nice," she told me. "Older guy. He takes care of things, pays good money for company, no big deal." I laughed at first, told her she was crazy. Me? No way. I wasn't that kind of girl. I had standards. I was going to fix my life the right way. But the days kept passing. My stuff got put out on the street after I missed rent. I slept in a park for one night and cried the whole time. Lisa called again. Said the guy, she called him a good uncle, could get me a place to stay, pay off some debts, give me breathing room. I hung up on her. Then I called her back an hour later. I asked questions. How bad was it really? What would I have to do? I hated myself for even considering it. I walked around for hours arguing with myself. My body already felt ruined after what happened at that party. What difference would it make now? At least this way, I'd be in control. I could set the rules, make enough money to get back on my feet, finish my degree somewhere else, start over. It would only be for a little while. I didn't sleep that night, just sat on Lisa's couch staring at the wall, weighing every option I didn't have. The next morning, I called her back. "Okay," I said. "Tell him yes." Lisa drove me. She didn't say much on the way, just handed me a little black bag with a dress inside and told me to change in the back seat. The dress was tight and short. I felt stupid in it. We pulled up to this modern apartment building near the Kop van Zuid. Clean glass entrance, nice lobby with a doorman who barely looked at us. Lisa buzzed a number. A man opened the door. Older, maybe late 40s, gray at the temples, wearing a black sweater and jeans. He smiled like we were old friends. "You must be Nadia. Come in, come in." His place smelled like cologne and new furniture. White walls, big windows looking out over the river, a leather couch that still had the tags on it almost. He poured me a glass of wine without asking. Lisa sat with us for about 10 minutes, talking about how easy everything would be. Then she left, just like that. The man, he said to call him Marco, explained the rules. Cash only, 2 hours, no phones. Be nice, smile, don't ask personal questions. He said the client was already on his way and that he'd wait in the other room if I needed anything. Then he handed me a small envelope with money for getting ready and told me to relax. The client arrived 20 minutes later. Tall, early 40s, suit jacket over a button-down shirt. He looked nervous, too. We sat on the couch. He asked where I was from. I said Rotterdam. Long silence. He asked if I wanted another drink. I said yes, just to have something to do with my hands. We talked about the weather, about traffic on the bridge. It felt forced and empty. At some point, he stood up and said we should go to the bedroom. The room was simple. Big bed, dim lamp, curtains already closed. I remember the sound of the city outside, boats on the river. He took off his jacket. I took off the dress. There was another long silence while we both figured out what came next. Afterward, he got dressed quickly. He didn't look at me much. He put the cash on the nightstand, more than I'd made in a whole week at the cafe, and said thank you in a quiet voice. Then he left. Marco came back in, checked the envelope, and told me a taxi was waiting downstairs. He said I'd done fine for a first time and that Lisa would call me tomorrow. I rode home in the back of the cab with the cash in my purse and the dress folded in the bag. The driver didn't talk. I stared out the window at the lights. My body felt strange, like it didn't completely belong to me anymore. Something small and quiet had shifted inside me that night, and I already knew I wasn't going to be able to put it back. The first few weeks were weird. I paid my back rent, bought groceries that weren't just pasta, and still had money left. It felt unreal. I went to H&M and bought clothes that actually fit right instead of whatever was on sale. Then I moved into a nicer apartment Marco helped me find. Big windows, actual furniture, a doorman who nodded at me every morning. For the first time in years, I wasn't scared of the mailbox. Clients started coming more regular. Some were businessmen from Germany or London who flew in for meetings. One guy took me to a restaurant where the wine cost more than my old weekly paycheck. I sat there in a black dress he'd sent over, cutting into perfect steak, listening to him talk about stock prices like it was normal. I kept thinking, I can't believe this is my life now. Another time I flew to Paris for the weekend, business class. First time on a plane since I was a kid. The client was older, polite, mostly wanted someone to sit next to him at a dinner with other rich guys. They talked about yachts and property in Dubai while I smiled and nodded. I came home with a Chanel bag he said I should keep. I stared at it on my kitchen counter for like 20 minutes. The money changed everything. I paid off my student loans, bought my mom flowers once and sent them without a card. I started sleeping better, eating better. My skin cleared up. I looked expensive. People treated me different. Waiters, drivers, hotel staff, everyone smiled more. But it wasn't all nice. There were strange nights. One client just wanted me to sit in his hotel room in lingerie and watch him work on his laptop for 3 hours. Didn't touch me once. Paid double. Another guy in Amsterdam wanted me to speak only Dutch the whole time, even though his was terrible. He kept correcting my pronunciation while we ate room service. It felt ridiculous and a little sad. I overheard things I wasn't supposed to. Guys on the phone yelling at their wives, talking about bribes, joking about things that would get normal people in serious trouble. They'd say this stuff right in front of me like I was furniture. One man told me his real name by accident and then laughed it off. "You don't exist on paper anyway," he said. Marco introduced me to more girls. We'd wait together in hotel bars sometimes, all dressed up, comparing notes in low voices. Everyone had their rules, their limits. I watched girls move their lines further and further back without even noticing. I did the same. A dinner turned into a weekend. A weekend turned into certain things I told myself I'd never do. Each time I'd tell myself it was just once, just for the money. I started recognizing the same drivers, the same hotel concierges. They knew my fake name. They'd greet me like I belonged there. The old life, the cafe, the lectures, the worry, started feeling like it happened to somebody else. One night, I came home from a 3-day trip to Zurich, dropped an envelope of cash on the table, and looked around my beautiful apartment. No panic about bills, no dread about tomorrow. I poured myself a glass of wine from the fridge and thought, this is just my life now. The two worlds had finally become one. And the scary part was how easy it felt. The first year felt like I was winning. The second year, things started shifting. By the third, I barely noticed how different I'd become. Clients changed. Some were still the polite businessman type, but others wanted more. Not just time. They wanted me to remember their kids' names, act excited about their promotions, laugh at jokes that weren't funny. One regular, a guy from Frankfurt, would book me for dinner and then spend the whole evening complaining about his wife. I'd sit there nodding, saying, that must be so hard, while my mind wandered somewhere else. I got really good at pretending. I learned to read people fast. The way a man looked at his watch when I walked in, how his voice changed when he talked about his money. I had 3 different names depending on the city. In Rotterdam, I was usually Sophie. In Amsterdam, I was Elena. I had backstories for each one. Birthday, hometown, fake job. I could switch without thinking. My old life disappeared quietly. I missed my best friend's birthday because I was in Brussels. I told her I had family stuff. She stopped calling after the 3rd excuse. My phone was full of contacts I couldn't save with real names, just initials and hotels. I deleted messages every single night before I went to sleep. It became automatic, like brushing my teeth. Days and nights flipped. I'd sleep until 3 in the afternoon, wake up, check my bookings, get ready, work until morning, then crash again. I stopped knowing what day it was. Christmas was just another busy weekend. I spent one New Year's Eve in a hotel suite watching fireworks from the window while a client slept. I drank champagne alone and felt nothing. Some nights were okay. One older client in The Hague just wanted company. He paid me to sit and watch old movies with him. He was lonely, polite. Those were the easy ones. But then there were others. A guy who liked to control everything. What I wore, what I ordered, when I could use the bathroom. He never raised his voice, but the way he watched me made my stomach tight. I told myself it was fine because he paid well and never got rough. Another man, a regular for almost a year, started sharing secrets. He worked in finance. He'd tell me about deals that sounded illegal, about moving money around for people whose names I recognized from the news. He'd laugh and say, "You're the only one I can talk to." I smiled and acted like it was normal. Inside, I was counting the minutes until I could leave. I started carrying a lot of cash, thousands of euros sometimes. I'd stuff it in different pockets, never the same bag. I learned which hotels had good exits, which ones had security that didn't ask questions. I'd scan rooms without thinking, where the door was, where the phone was, how fast I could get out if something felt wrong. The numbness came slow. Things that would have shocked me at 21 barely registered at 24. A client wanting me to wear specific jewelry his wife owned. Another who cried after and told me he hated himself. I'd comfort them, clean up, take the money, go home, delete the messages, sleep. My body started paying. Back pain from heels and weird positions. Trouble sleeping even when I had the chance. I'd look in the mirror some mornings and not recognize the girl looking back. Expensive makeup, nice hair, dead eyes. Marco would sometimes say I was one of his best girls. I took it as a compliment. Friends from university? Gone. My mom called less and less. I sent her money once and told her I got a promotion in marketing. She believed it. Or maybe she didn't want to look too close. I stopped going to the river where I used to stand and feel hopeful. That girl felt like someone I used to know. There were moments that stuck with me, like the time a client got too drunk and started smashing glasses. Not at me, but the sound, the anger. I sat perfectly still until security came. Or the night I flew back from Berlin and realized I hadn't spoken to another woman in 11 days. Just men. Always men. By the time I was 26, I barely reacted to anything. A booking would get canceled and I'd feel relieved instead of disappointed. I'd look at normal people on the street, girls my age with regular jobs, going to lunch, complaining about bosses, and feel this strange distance, like I was watching them from behind glass. One random Tuesday morning, I came home after a long weekend in Luxembourg, dropped my bag, counted the cash, and sat on my couch. The apartment was quiet and beautiful and expensive. I couldn't remember the last time I'd cooked a meal or watched TV just because I wanted to. I poured myself a drink and realized this was it. This was my normal now. Not temporary, not a phase, just my life. And the worst part was how little I felt about it. I was 27. It was just another booking. A hotel near the airport, one of the nicer ones. Marco set it up for 2 hours. The client was already checked in when I got there. Mid-40s, quiet, business clothes. He ordered room service and poured me a drink. We talked about nothing important. Flights, the weather, work. He seemed nervous, but a lot of them did. Something felt off from the start. He kept looking at the door. He asked me twice if anyone knew where I was. I said no, like I always did. He smiled and said good. We moved to the bed after a while. Everything was normal at first. Then his mood shifted. He got angry about something small. I don't even remember what. Maybe I looked at my phone too long. Maybe I didn't answer fast enough. He pushed me. Hard. My head hit the edge of the nightstand. Everything went white for a second. I tried to get up. He was still talking, still angry, but the words didn't make sense anymore. My ears were ringing. The room tilted. I remember trying to say something, but my mouth wouldn't work right. Then everything went dark. When I woke up, the room was empty. The door was closed. My head felt like it was splitting open, blood on the pillow. I couldn't stand without falling. I must have blacked out again. The next thing I remember is the cleaners, 2 women in uniforms. One of them was shaking my shoulder. They were speaking Dutch fast, scared. Someone called an ambulance. I was still half dressed. They put a blanket over me. The hospital was bright and loud. Doctors asking questions I couldn't answer. Scans, stitches. I kept telling them I fell. They didn't believe me, but they didn't push hard either. When the swelling went down, they told me the vision in my left eye was damaged. Partial, they said. Permanent. Something about the optic nerve. I stayed 3 days. Nobody came. Marco didn't call. Lisa didn't either. The nurses brought food and changed the IV. Outside the window, people walked around like it was any other day. Cars, buses, normal life continuing. When they discharged me, I took a taxi home. My apartment felt too quiet. I sat on the couch with a bandage on my head and one eye that wouldn't focus right. I looked at the cash still in my bag from the last few bookings and realized I couldn't do this anymore. Not one more night, not one more client. The illusion was gone. There was no just a little longer. There was only this broken version of me staring at the wall, knowing I had to get out or I wouldn't make it to 28. Getting out wasn't one big moment. I tried 3 different times before it stuck. The first time, I just stopped answering Marco's calls. 2 days later, a guy I didn't know showed up at my door saying I owed money for canceled bookings. I paid him just to make him leave. The second time, I changed my number and moved to a different neighborhood in Rotterdam. I lasted 6 weeks before the panic got so bad I went back for one more job because at least that pain was familiar. The head injury made everything harder. My vision never got better. I get headaches that knock me out for days. The shelter for trafficking victims was the only place that would take me in after I finally walked away for good. I was 27, broke, scared, and half blind in one eye. They helped with paperwork, got me state assistance, but it was humiliating. Filling out forms, explaining what I'd been doing, watching people's faces change when they read my file. I had to learn how to live on almost nothing again. I started cleaning offices at night and working part-time as a cashier at a small supermarket. My hands shook the first few months ringing people up. I'd have panic attacks in the break room and hide in the bathroom until they passed. Nightmares every night. Sometimes I'd wake up thinking I was still in a hotel room waiting for the next client. The worst part was the loneliness. I didn't know how to talk to normal people anymore. Friends were gone. I tried dating once and froze up so bad the guy thought I was crazy. Trusting anyone felt impossible. I still check hotel exits when I walk past them. I still delete my messages out of habit even though there's nothing to hide. Therapy helps some weeks. Other weeks I skip it. My psychologist says I have complex PTSD. I call it my brain won't shut up. I still have days where I feel disgusting for what I did, even though I know logically I was trying to survive. The guilt about my sister eats at me too. I looked for her for a while, but she disappeared too well. I don't blame her. I live in social housing now. Small place, but it's mine. I work as a cleaner in the mornings and at the register in the afternoons. My back hurts from both jobs, and my eye gets tired fast. Some customers are nice, others look right through me. That part feels familiar. I'm 33. I still have moments where I miss the money, the way doors opened, the feeling of being wanted even if it was fake. Then I remember waking up in that hotel room with blood on the pillow, and I know I'd rather be broke and invisible than go back. I still can't forgive myself for believing I could just do it for a little while and walk away clean. I lost my chance at university. I lost years I'll never get back. I lost pieces of myself I don't even know how to name. But I'm here. I made it out. And if you're listening to this, wondering if you can leave too, just know it's harder than anyone tells you. But it's possible. Even if you're never the same. They paid me for my body, but they took my soul, my health, and my future. And none of them even remembered my name.